tell some stories about Pat. You know, I know everybody's got the good, funny stories. Pat was a character. Always, every day, always.
I'll kick it off here. I'm Tim Newworth, a good friend of Patrick's, first-generation friends. There's probably 2 more generations of you younger folks have come along that I don't even recognize. But one other true Patrick story. You know, when others are terrified, he just gets excited. And we're in Stonehenge, England. We went on a trip to see a fair friend of mine over in England. I said, Patrick, come with me. He goes, hell yeah. So what did he do? He set up a meeting with the #1 wheelie rider in Europe that lived in Scotland. What's his name? Well, yeah, he met him at a deal here, but AC Frost knows that it was a Scottish dude. We went up there and he rode this guy was factory sponsored by Triumph, and he starts 12 o'clock in a couple of these Triumph bikes with no guards. And hammerheads one down, cracks the case, and the blood comes out, and the guy's like, don't worry about it. He's like, man, I love you. And later in that trip, we're at Stonehenge. And if you've been to Patrick's house, you see a picture of him at Stonehenge with me and him. And what you don't see in that picture is about 10 minutes later, we're leaving Stonehenge with a friend of mine from Brazil's in her car, and Patrick's in there, I'm in there, I'm driving. In England, they drive on the wrong side, right? They have a right-hand drive, but this car is a left-hand drive, just like in America. So when you yield and take turns, you're looking the wrong way if you're used to driving in America. So I turn left, and it says you can't turn right, but we don't ever watch those signs, right? So I look left for oncoming traffic, and I go to pull out, and this, what they call a Suzuki Micro, tiny little car, with a very old man in it, hits our front fender and rips the front of our car off, but the Suzuki Micro flips and rolls and slides down, and Stonehenge is right behind us in full view, right there. And we're leaving the next day, and I'm like, oh shit, I just killed somebody. I'm going to jail. And Patrick just gets quiet, and we pull the car over, and I'm sitting on this guardrail, and we walk up to the guy, and we hear him kind of cussing. And I was so happy to hear him breathing and cussing. I'm like, fuck, he's alive. That's great. That's a good start. And Patrick sits there on the guardrail with me and quietly gets into his backpack and pulls out a video cam and says, this shit is going to be great for the videos. And I look at him, terrified. I just shake my head, and you can't blame him, but he's always thinking. So he got some of the best pictures, and somehow I went to jail that day. My friend and him drove the car back, but the car leaked all the coolant out, and it blew up and broke the motor, and had to wait for a tow truck and this and that. I went to jail, talked to the public appointed attorney, which was super cool. He gave me money to get on a train and get back to there, retained my passport somehow, even though the police wanted my passport. I beat them back to the house. He get back to the house, I open the door, he's like, what in the fuck? I said, I don't know, dude, don't say nothing, we're out here tomorrow morning on the airplane. And that was the good luck he brought, and that's just one tiny overseas trip story with Patrick that never forget the guy. Who's next?
Man, I got so much to say about Patrick. Patrick was just so different than everybody else in the stunt scene. You know, from the very beginning, I had just gotten into stunt riding. I didn't even have a stunt bike. I was in an R1. We're rolling endos in some crappy ass parking lot. And of course I knew who Patrick was. Everybody knew who he was. Weeks go by. He comes by and rides with us one day. I mean, you gotta think, I just got it into this. I am excited. We're like, no way. Patrick Stevens riding with us. That's awesome. And this is the best day ever. Well, the owner happened to have the haunted house, and he came out and he said, you know, we're worse than amateurs. We're doing nothing with motorcycles. But Patrick was there, and the owner offered us to, if we could go ride one of the afternoons and take some pictures with their vehicles and some of their props, we could get into the haunted house for free. For us, we were like, hell yeah, this is awesome. Patrick, he was getting paid for shows. He was doing so much older stuff, but he was not above that. And that was the one thing that I learned from him. Never be above what you can do. He did it because one, he loved motorcycles. Two, he loved being a mentor. He didn't become just my mentor, he became a lot of us. A lot of our mentors. He loved teaching. He loved the community. He loved stunt riding. He didn't care that it was a $30 ticket to a haunted house. He took his crappy ass trailer, which he actually let me borrow one time. We took it for a weekend out of town. Super awesome. He took his trailer out there. He hauled ass on that red Ram that he had forever. Biggest piece of shit he owned, but he loved it. That truck sold for more than any other vehicle I've ever seen, bro. God, driving behind him was terrifying. I learned it from him. But he did that, and that was, yeah. But he did that, and that was humbling. You know, humbling coming into the stunt scene and being with someone at that level that he was so humbling to drive across town and then Friday night to ride for 30 minutes to get a free ticket into the haunted house. He didn't even go in the haunted house. And man, I'm always gonna remember that because it's what I remember stunt riding, to be humble. Last little story. Patrick was funny, dude.
Yes.
But he wasn't that funny. You just had to laugh with him. It was ridiculous. The guy, every time I saw him, he would tell me about Tang. Our friend Tang's last name is P-H-U-C. You pronounce it fuck. Sorry, kids. But this story has to come out. Every time I saw him, he was like, yeah, I need to bring my stuff to fuck. And he just laughed, and I was like, that's not funny. But his laugh was so contagious, I used to crack up with him every single time. I don't think I ever met that dude without a smile on his face. And for that, I'll always remember him by being happy and loving the stunt scene.
I took care of his insurance at State Farm. Funny brought up
You got some balls, bro.
I remember insuring this car for $3 a month because it is a classic. He loved that. He thought that was the greatest thing ever. It's like $3 a month. I was like, fuck yeah, let's get it. I also worked at the Improv with him. My buddy Jake is here. He also worked at the Improv with Patrick. And Patrick was notorious for two things. Number one, he had his corner, Patrick's corner in the Improv, which was middle left. And if he didn't get that section, he was pissed. Secondly, Patrick was notorious for grazing food. I don't know if everyone knows this, but he claimed that by eating other people's food, he would stay healthy forever. And according to Patrick, he only ever got sick twice in his life. Twice. So there must be something to that. So everyone, graze those hamburgers today. I also did an interview with Patrick. If anyone wants to listen to it, it is online. I did it about 1.5 years ago with him, and we talked about everything from stunt riding to comedy, which we haven't talked about a lot. Patrick was a comedian, and he loved to make people laugh. He always walked in the room with that grin, and you guys all know that grin when you saw him. And he just had something ready in the back of his mind to say to you. But also he had a kindness to him, a gentleness that always came through. He was always everyone's friend. And from my experience, he was a good person, and I really, really appreciate that. I'll leave you on this. When I was doing the interview with him, we brought up, and I'm sorry, Mama Stevens, his pornographic career. Sorry, children, if you're here. And I brought it up, and he pulled out his stack of DVDs this high, and he went to hand them to me. I was like, Patrick, I'm doing an interview with you right now. I don't want to watch those. And he just gave me that grin. We're going to miss you, Pat. You're a great guy.
I'm Joey. On behalf of the family, we would like to thank everybody for coming out and showing your support and your love for Patrick Stevens. He was 100% him, all of the time, whether you liked it or not. I found myself many times having to explain our friendship and explain Patrick Stevens and try and tell people, no, he's not really like that all the time. No, you don't understand. He's a really good guy. And I keep saying the past few days, it's 5%. That's just only 5% of the time. The other 95% is grocery shopping and normal shit. It's not always crazy. But I have been lucky enough to know Patrick for 20 years. I've been grateful and incredibly fortunate enough to call that man my best friend for at least the past 15 years. We called ourselves each other, we were heterosexual life mates, and we were gonna grow old together. I have seen all of you ladies come in and out of his life. Not that lady. And me and a handful of you guys have been the only constant in his life. There's a handful of things I knew without a doubt Patrick loved. Riding his motorcycle, his mother, making people laugh, and fucking.
And pissing on your feet.
And he had no reservation for any of those areas. If you took him out, you got what you got.
1, 2, 3. Rest in peace, Patrick Stevens. We love you, brother.
Yeah.
Woo!